Okay, I want to start today's deep dive with a little Rorschach test. I'm going to say one word, and I just want the immediate image that flashes in your brain. Don't overthink it.
All right, I'm ready. Hit me.
The word is androgyny.
Oh, honest answer.
Honest answer.
It's David Bowie. It's almost always David Bowie.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Ziggy Stardust era, the bright red mullet, astral sphere on the forehead, that whole vibe. Or maybe Tilda Swinton.
Exactly. See, that's where my head goes too. We have this kind of mental file folder for androgyny, and inside it is usually high fashion, rock stars, maybe some very specific runway models.
With razor-sharp cheekbones.
Oh. We think of it as a look,
Yeah.
a style choice, maybe even a costume.
Which is, completely understandable given our pop culture diet.
Hmm.
But if we stick to that definition, if we think it's just about eyeliner and suits, we are missing so much. We're looking at the very tip of an iceberg and just ignoring the mountain underneath.
And that is exactly why I was so excited to get into this material today, because the sources we've pulled argue that androgyny isn't just a look, it's described as a field.
A field, yeah. That's such a crucial distinction to make right off the bat.
It covers appearance, sure, but it also stretches into behavior, psychology, ancient spirituality, even hard biology. It's massive.
It really is. And the core idea, the thread that really ties all these sources together,
Yeah.
is fascinating. It suggests that at its heart, androgyny is about questioning this fundamental assumption that all human qualities have to be sliced into two opposing, warring camps.
It's about wholeness rather than polarity.
Wholeness rather than polarity, exactly. I love that phrasing. It sounds so much healthier than just, picking a side.
It really does.
It's about capacity.
So here's our roadmap for you today.
Uh-huh.
We are going to take this concept out of the fashion magazines and really unpack it. First, we're going to do a little time travel way back to ancient Greece and Hindu cosmology.
See how the ancients viewed it?
Then we'll jump into the human mind with Carl Jung, navigate some of the messy biological definitions that often trip people up, and then finally land on this really profound concept from the source called internal agreement.
Which is where this all stops being history and starts getting incredibly personal. One concept, internal agreement, actually changed how I look at my own stress levels.
Oh, same here. But before we get to the stress relief, let's get weird. I'm looking at my notes on the ancient origins, and I have to ask, are we really going to talk about spherical humans?
We absolutely are. It is one of the strangest and, I think, most beautiful images in all of Western philosophy.
Okay, set the scene. This comes from Plato, right?
Right, specifically from his work, The Symposium.
Yeah.
Now, most people know Plato for the cave allegory, but this is his origin story for humanity. He describes the original human. And the key thing is, these beings, they didn't look like you or me. They weren't just men or women. They were spheres.
Just rolling around.
Literally rolling. The text describes them as whole, round, and self-contained. They had 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 faces on one head, looking in opposite directions.
So they could walk upright.
They could, but if they wanted to move fast, they would cartwheel on all 8 limbs.
That sounds like a sci-fi monster, honestly. But the text says they were powerful.
Incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
They were complete. They had no lack. And because they were so powerful, the god Zeus specifically got intimidated. He felt threatened.
Ah.
So to humble them, to weaken them, Zeus decided to just slice them in half.
Which gives us the human form we have today. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 face.
Exactly. But here's the insight that really matters for our deep dive. Plato frames love, that desperate drive we feel to find a partner. He frames it as a recovery mission. We're trying to find our other half.
To return to that original state.
To return to the sphere.
Yeah.
So it reframes the whole concept, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just, I like you.
No, it's, I am structurally broken without this unity.
Precisely. And in this context, androgyny, that state of containing both principles, it isn't some weird anomaly. It's the memory of being whole. It represents original unity.
So in the West, we have these spherical people, but the research stack moves us east to Hindu cosmology, and we see a really similar theme, just with a different image. This figure, Ardhanarishvara.
Yes, this is such a crucial counterpoint. Ardhanarishvara is the composite form of the deity Shiva and his consort Shakti. But again, they aren't 2 people standing next to each other.
No, the image is striking. It's a single body, split right down the middle, vertically.
Right. The right half is typically Shiva, the masculine principle, and the left half is Shakti, the feminine.
Now, I want to pause on this because I think a modern Western brain looks at that and thinks, okay, equality, balance, 50-50.
And that's exactly where the source warns us not to go. It's not a scale.
Yeah.
It's not two kids on a seesaw trying to stay level. If you really look at the theology behind it, it represents coexistence without hierarchy.
Okay, explain that distinction. Coexistence without hierarchy.
Well, in a hierarchy, one side is usually better or in charge. Or in a simple balance, they're opposing forces, right? Like a stalemate. But in this image, they're inseparable. The idea is that creation itself cannot exist without both.
So you can't have one without the other.
You can't. You can't have the unmanifest consciousness of Shiva without the dynamic, creative energy of Shakti. They aren't fighting for control. They are one functional reality. Take one away, and the whole universe just blinks out.
It's funny, we see this pattern repeat in, of all places, medieval alchemy. We have the rebus.
The Redis, yes. The Philosopher's Stone in human form. A two-headed figure on one body. In alchemy, the whole point, the great work, was about taking opposites, dissolving them, and recombining them into something new, something higher.
So if we zoom out and look at all these ancient traditions, Greece, India, alchemy, androgyny wasn't seen as confusion, was it?
No, far from it. It was the ultimate goal. A symbol of higher integration. It wasn't about being neither, it was about being everything.
Exactly, a sign of divinity. Okay, so that's the cosmic view. We were spheres, we are gods, we are alchemical gold. Beautiful. But most of us aren't alchemists in a cave. We're just trying to get through a work week. So let's bring this down to earth. Or into the brain.
Let's talk about Carl Jung.
The grandfather of deep psychological dives. The sources lean so heavily on his concepts of the anima and the animus. Now, these terms get thrown around a lot, usually incorrectly. Can you break them down for us?
Absolutely. So Jung proposed that the human psyche is inherently androgynous, regardless of your physical body.
Well,
If you identify as a man, you have an unconscious feminine aspect, the anima. If you identify as a woman, an unconscious masculine aspect, the animus.
and when we say masculine and feminine here, we have to be really, really careful. We're not talking about likes football or likes pink, are we?
No, not at all. We're talking about archetypal energies. Broadly in this framework, the masculine principle is associated with things like focus, logic, agency, cutting things apart to understand them. The feminine is about connection, intuition, receptivity, putting things together.
So Jung's argument is that we all have the hardware for both.
We do. But, and this is the big, but social conditioning usually forces us to repress one side.
And this is where that internal war starts to form.
Exactly. If a man spends his whole life repressing his anima because he's terrified of appearing soft, he doesn't just become a strong man. Jung would say he becomes rigid, brittle, emotionally cut off from his own soul.
And on the flip side,
If a woman suppresses her animus, her capacity for agency and drive, because she's told she has to be accommodating, she doesn't just become pleasant. She risks becoming directionless. She loses her ability to set boundaries.
this brings us to psychological androgyny. The notes describe this not as a physical look, but as a mental state.
It's a state of access. A psychologically androgynous person isn't dominated by one side. They have a conscious connection to both.
I really like the toolkit analogy the source uses here. Let's unpack that.
Sure. So imagine you're trying to build a house. If you identify strictly with those masculine archetypes, force, logic, you're trying to build that house using only a hammer. You could do a lot with a hammer, but you can't saw wood. You can't tighten a delicate screw.
You're going to smash a lot of windows trying to fix them.
Exactly. And if you're overly identified with the feminine connection, flow, or maybe you only have a paintbrush, you can make things beautiful, smooth things over, but you can't frame the wall. You can't build the structure.
So psychological androgyny is simply having the full toolkit.
It's the ability to look at a situation and ask, what's needed right now? Do I need to be assertive? Great, I'll grab the hammer. Do I need to be receptive and listen? Great, I'll grab the paintbrush.
It's just situational adaptability.
That's the key benefit listed in the research. High adaptability,
Yeah.
creativity,
Mhm.
and internal coherence. You stop fighting yourself.
Right, and the source points out that modern psychology sees this behaviorally. You can be a CEO who runs a tight meeting and then pivot to mentoring an employee with deep empathy.
And the aha moment is that you don't see those as contradictory. You're not breaking character. You're just being capable.
Just being capable. I love that. It takes all the politics out of it and makes it about competence. But speaking of confusion, we do have to address the elephant in the room.
The terminology.
Right. Language evolves so fast. And I think there is a lot of confusion. People hear androgyny and they immediately conflate it with non-binary or transgender, The sources are very specific about separating these.
They are, and it's a critical distinction for clarity.
Mhm.
Androgyny in this specific field of study is not the same as gender identity.
So identity is who you are, androgyny is what?
Androgyny is about integration or expression. I mean, a person can be cisgender identifying with the sex they were assigned at birth and still be androgynous in their psychology.
Like Prince or Tilda Swinton, who we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Or a person can be transgender and androgynous, or non-binary and androgynous. It's about the capacity to hold those different traits. It's not a statement about your pronouns or a census form.
And it is definitely not about sexual orientation.
Oh, no. That's who you go to bed with. Androgyny is who you go to bed as. It's a totally different axis.
The source also drops some biology facts here that I think are important because we so often hear that it's basic biology, argument used to defend a strict binary.
Right, men are this, women are that, end of story.
But the notes say, well, biology is actually pretty messy.
Biology is incredibly messy. The source highlights that sex itself isn't a simple on-off switch. You have intersex variations, for one. But even for those of us who aren't intersex, the binary isn't as rigid as we think.
How so?
Well, every single human body contains both androgens, like testosterone, and estrogens. Every one. We just have them in different ratios, and those ratios fluctuate throughout our lives.
There's a quote here I highlighted, the body is already more fluid than language
It's
suggests.
a great line. Our bodies are already cooperating across the spectrum. We are biologically wired with the potential for both.
Okay, so let's do a quick Mythbusters segment. The source lists common misconceptions. I'll tee them up, you knock them down.
Let's do it.
Myth number 1, androgyny is indecision. It's someone who is confused.
False. As we saw with the alchemists and Jung, it's often a very deliberate, high-level integration. It's not that they can't choose, it's that they refuse to limit themselves to just one choice.
Myth number 2, it implies a lack of sex or desire. The neutered look.
Also false. That's a confusion with asexuality. Androgyny isn't about absence, it's about presence. It's about having more qualities, not fewer.
Myth number 3, it's half of each, like a watered-down cocktail.
This is the most common one. We think if you mix masculine and feminine, you just get beige. But the source defines it as capacity. It's not 50% strength plus 50% softness. It's 100% strength and 100% softness available when needed.
Capacity, I think that's the word to hold on to. It's about having a bigger engine. Now, we touched on Bowie earlier. We can't do this deep dive without looking at the cultural impact. Because historically, androgyny seems to pop up in waves, right? It's not constant.
No, it pulses. It tends to emerge during periods of massive cultural transformation. The notes mention the Renaissance. Think of those angelic, gender-ambiguous figures, and then obviously the 1970s.
Why then? Why does it show up when things are chaotic?
Because those are the times when the old rule books are burning. When societies are challenging rigid norms, people start looking for something that transcends the old categories.
And artists like Bowie. The source says he used androgyny as myth-making.
A refusal to be reduced. I love that phrasing. When Bowie stepped out as Ziggy Stardust, he wasn't just wearing a costume. He was signaling that he wouldn't be boxed into a normal existence. He was creating a creature that was other.
But other is scary. And the source notes that socially, androgyny is often met with hostility.
Of course.
Why?
Because our society is built on hierarchy. And historically, that hierarchy is gendered. Men do this, women do that. If you introduce a figure that blurs those lines, someone who is masculine and feminine, you are threatening the whole structure.
If I can't categorize you, I can't control you.
Exactly. When roles blur, control weakens. So the reaction is either to marginalize it, treat it like a freak show, or fetishize it.
Make it exotic so you don't have to take it seriously.
Right. It's easier to treat it as a sexy costume than to accept it as a valid way of being human, because accepting it means admitting the hierarchy is arbitrary.
That explains a lot about the pushback we see even today. It's not just about clothes, it's about power dynamic.
It always is.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. History, psychology, biology, culture. But the source ends on something much quieter, something personal. It calls it the deepest layer.
This is my favorite part of the research, because honestly, not everyone wants to look like a rock star. Not everyone wants to analyze their anima. But this applies to everyone.
The concept is internal agreement.
Internal agreement. The source defines androgyny at its deepest level as the end of internal war.
Wow. Okay, unpack that. What war are we fighting?
The war of suppression. I mean, think about how much energy you spend every single day trying to fit a script. I can't say that, it makes me sound bossy. I shouldn't admit I'm hurt. I need to be a man.
It's a constant, low-level monitoring system running in the background.
And it burns fuel, a huge amount of psychological fuel. When you stop suppressing parts of yourself to fit those external scripts, when you achieve that internal agreement, the source says your energy stabilizes.
It says expression becomes less performative and presence becomes cleaner. That's an interesting word choice. Cleaner!
It means you aren't leaking energy trying to maintain a facade. You're just there. You're not acting. You're simply existing in your full reality.
The notes list the emotional characteristics of this state, and it's a fascinating mix. High empathy with strong boundaries.
Which is such a rare combination. Usually we think of empathy as having weak boundaries. You just absorb everyone's pain. Or strong boundaries as being cold or detached.
But if you have that androgynous toolkit,
You can use your feminine receptivity to feel deeply for someone while using your masculine authority to maintain a rock-solid boundary. You can be kind without being a doormat, firm without being a jerk.
that sounds like a superpower.
It is. It's the power of wholeness.
And there's this phrase in the text, self-generated identity.
That's the goal, isn't it? To define yourself from the inside out rather than letting the world define you from the outside in.
It really reframes the whole conversation. We started with spherical humans and glam rock, which feels very out there, but we've landed on something that sounds a lot like peace.
That's the synthesis. We get distracted by the surface of androgyny, the fashion, the shock value, but the source material is pointing us towards something much more profound. It's suggesting that androgyny isn't a trend or a category to tick on a box.
It's a remembering.
Yes, a remembering of your own wholeness.
So if we look back at where we started, Plato's spheres, Shiva, and Shakti, they were all trying to tell us the same thing, that we're built to be complete.
And that the division we feel, that internal split, is something we can actually heal.
It's not about being neutral, not about being beige, it's about being full spectrum.
Correct. It's about not leaving half of yourself at the door when you walk into a room.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about ancient spheres or Jungian archetypes on a Tuesday morning?
Because if we take this seriously, it invites us to look at where we are still fighting that internal war. Where are we limiting our own capacity because we think a certain trait belongs to the other team?
That leads us perfectly to the final thought we want to leave you with. And this one comes straight from the source's conclusion on power.
Right. We
Okay.
talked about the end of internal war. But consider the flip side. Consider how much creative power, how much spiritual authority is currently being wasted. Wasted in the battle to suppress parts of ourselves. Every time you hold back a feeling because it's too soft, or hold back an idea because it's too aggressive for your gender role, you are burning energy. You're dimming your own light.
So the question is, what would happen if that war ended today? What would you be capable of if you had access to your full capacity?
That's a massive question, and it's one we're going to let you sit with.
Indeed. Thank you for diving deep with us today. It's been a fascinating trip through the field of androgyny.
A pleasure as always.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Stay whole, everyone.